Hello, this is Mrs. Taylor, and I'm going to extend the previous video of comparing slope to comparing y-intercepts. So instead of asking the question, do each pair of equations have the same slope, I'm going to ask, do each pair of equations have the same y-intercept? And we already did a lot of the work when we were comparing slope, because if we want to know what the y-intercept is, we can convert it to slope-intercept form, like I did here and here. And so once I have them converted, I can see very quickly if the y-intercept is the same. So the two equations here on the right side do not have the same y-intercept. Now on this left side, I did solve the top equation for y. I got slope-intercept form, and I can look at that and see that my intercept is -1. But for the second equation, this one, I chose a different route for slope and just tried to remember the formula. And so if that's the case, I mean, I can quickly solve for y, or I can remember that the y-intercept is where x is 0. So what I could do instead is I could plug 0 in for x, and that would look like this. And then I can solve for y to get the y-intercept. So 5 times 0 is just 0, and 0 minus 3y would just leave me with -3y. And then if I divide both sides by 3, y equals -2. And so I could find my y-intercept that way and not have to solve for y in that case. So for students who really aren't comfortable with this process of getting y by itself, there are some workarounds. You have some alternatives here on how to still solve these problems. So once I get my y-intercept by plugging 0 in for x, I can now compare this y-intercept of -2 to the y-intercept of this first equation, -1. They aren't the same. So again, this pair of equations do not have the same y-intercept either.